So I think this review in particular is going to have me struggling with monetization issues, but I'm going to try my best with regards to everything that happened at that wacky-ass event, you could say, founded in 52 by none other than Soulja Boy. But outside of that, the other things this episode, especially that ending, things got very, very real, and it really propels The Boys Season 3 forward into its final few episodes. Don't forget, there's 8 episodes this season. We just watched 6. Shit's gonna get real crazy in the next couple. So of course, everyone, if you're enjoying these videos on The Boys, would really appreciate a like. It does help out a lot. And subscribe, why not? I think you just might enjoy it here. But let's, of course, start right at the beginning. And we had that little intro with the Deep. I have to say, that was pretty hilarious. It was quite a piss take, if you will, on the video that Gal Gadot did. I'm sure many of you know exactly what I'm talking about there. But here, with the recent supervillain attacks, nobody quite knows it's Soulja Boy right now. And as we find out, he's blacking out. So he doesn't actually even realize he's doing that, or he doesn't really mean to. Not that I think Soulja Boy particularly cares at the end of the day. A lot of soups don't really fully acknowledge their collateral until it happens to them, such as the perfect example with A-Train this episode. But yeah, just the whole imagine there's no heaven, acting all very sincere and, spreading the message of this song so it can help make people better. I believe him and Josh Gad was in there, maybe a few other recognizable faces, which is when we have Vought's little criminal surveillance department, even though it's kind of completely empty now, being operated by the Deep. Ashley's there and Homelander. They're honing in on the most recent explosion, which is, pretty hard to miss. It almost looks like a little nuclear mushroom cloud, and then they zoom in and they see none other than Soulja Boy, which of course really triggers Homelander because he idolized him as a kid, as we know later on in that confrontation, and as he is the new upgrade, as he puts it, we know Homelander. Even if he could be best buds with this guy, it would almost never happen just out of even though I liked you as a kid, I'm the new guy. I don't want you coming back, messing with my image. But regardless, the bigger thing here, and again, love the commentary from Homelander, since obviously Soulja Boy blew up Midtown, if this got out, it would bring down Vought, which would in turn bring down Homelander. And I like how Homelander is under this complete illusion that he's really good friends with Black Noir. He asks him why would he kill Crimson Countess, because he's digging into this. Black Noir just says nothing, and Homelander almost was like, okay, and that's when he goes into the elevator, takes out the tracking chip, and just completely gets out of there. And obviously later he finds out this happens from the Deep, and he's just like, no, he wouldn't do this to me. But again, it's just because he doesn't talk. There's some kind of perceived connection here from Homelander that because he says nothing, that it must mean that Black Noir really likes him. Now, picking up with Soulja Boy, Billy, Hughie, really enjoyed this scene, and I knew it. Not that I'm saying I'm a genius or anything like this, but I was thinking Compound V must have some side effects, right? And I'm thinking the goo coming out of Hughie's ear, it could have been blood, but it seemed quite thick in substance. Whatever's going on there might have to do with the Compound V. I feel like they hammered that in when Hughie was trying to pick up the shield. You could argue he's just testing if he has any strength left from his previous dose, but it was a bit too in sync from him picking up the blood or whatever it was from his ear. Now, the interesting factor is we haven't seen any side effects from Billy Butcher, other than the obvious stuff of being sick, but I'm talking potential long-term health concerns. We haven't seen anything from him, but again, maybe we won't. Obviously, these things could react differently with different people, but I do wonder if there's going to be a tragic or some kind of long-term effect on one of the characters, such as Billy or Hughie, mainly Hughie here we're talking about, that there's a repercussion for using the Temp V that Starlight warned about. They constantly hammered it in as well. You're using an untested Vought drug. So we'd love to know your thoughts as to where that goes. But also, it's like Billy was being a salesman in this moment, pitching their services. They were saying some things that made sense, though, with regards to how Soulja Boy doesn't really know the real world. So he was just like, how it's a whole different world out there, son, and we're here to help you find your way. They mention Homelander, saying they'll help with payback. He acknowledges that he's seen pictures of this Homelander guy when he was out there in the world. And he says, you help me find the rest of my team and I'll help you with Homelander. And I didn't really buy it in this moment, but obviously he does at the end of the episode, so he was good on his word with that. As the episode progresses, we have Kimiko, who kind of continuously breaks my heart, texting or like drafting texts to Frenchie saying, "Are you mad at me because of the kiss?" and things like that. That's when Kimiko gets grabbed and, you know, taken to where Frenchie's being held by Nina. And then with A-Train, we have like a draft advert for A-Train to Africa. He goes mad at Ashley for what you're doing about Blue Hawk. He is very frustrated in this moment, really confronting her about it. But as we're seeing this season with Ashley, she's continuously getting confident and emboldened to just speak her opinion. And in this moment, she snaps, pulls out more of her hair, and basically calls A-Train out on his hypocrisy here. Like, it only matters the collateral damage, the murders that you've even done before, right? It only matters when it affects you, which obviously was a bit of a wake-up call for the moment later with Hughie and A-Train. I am wondering if things with Ashley are going to get to a point of where she is still getting a bit on her own power trip, and even though she's speaking out more and more now, what if she goes one step too far with someone else and it ends bad for her? I'm always curious as to what is going to happen with characters like this, because they could easily die at any point, I guess, but they also might not. After that moment with the Deep telling Homelander about Black Noir, that's when he talks to himself in the mirror, and I feel like this is obviously the more foreshadowing for where we're going to ultimately get with Homelander after just the pressure is piling on him to only unlock what is deep, deep down. As his mirror version of himself said, we got to cut that part out of you like a cancer. Then, my boy, you can be what you're always meant to be, you know, pure, clean, like marble, because he was referencing his desire and need to be loved. And true, like, that is one of the things that fuels some of the bad things that Homelander does, but also holds him back a little bit. The thing that keeps him grounded, if anything, if you want to call him human. But imagine if that part was cut out as well. All that is left is truly, truly, truly a supervillain who would do the things that he threatened to Starlight, like, you know, wipe out New York, wipe out the Pentagon and things like that. So we are so close to that. And kind of speaking of that, we see Starlight and Homelander go on the news again, and once again he breaks his character, and this is where he tries to capitalize on that certain demographic he has in his audience with regards to the American people. They know when someone's telling them facts, and they know when the media is lying to them, because obviously the reporter was trying to get a little bit more out. It's like, you know, you keep telling us not to worry, but then there's another explosion, things like that. So what's really going on here? But he doubles down. But Newman was there, of course, as well, and she has a little bit of a catch up with Starlight, and we've been waiting for the continuation of this storyline, because she mentions that, oh, I thought Hughie was, you know, avoiding me because maybe he thought I was gonna pop his head. Now, this is where the big highlight of Starlight came out. I mean, obviously Newman here was just, you know, pitching something they could do to help each other, but she was like, I am kind of sick and tired of listening to people telling me that I need to be shitty in order to win. So she's just like, screw you, screw Homelander, and whatever this takes kind of crap. Obviously, this is echoing from the conversation with Hughie as well. That's something that she wants nothing more than Hughie to be with her right now, but even he is doing the whatever it takes to take out Homelander. And to be fair to Starlight, like, I was thinking at the end of last episode, as I was saying, you know, Soulja Boy is, you know, is he the lesser of two evils? But at least he could maybe help take out Homelander, but she persisted, and usually, you know, with the boys, I would almost agree to this, that nice guys finish last. But it seems that Starlight is breaking that mold, once again referencing the very end of this episode, but we haven't seen the aftermath of that. What is Homelander going to be like? But kudos to Starlight, because she's sticking it to everyone at the moment, just doing things the right way. But I do argue in this world that she's navigating, it is really enough to just get you killed. I did kind of like how Newman was flexing, though, with regards to, you know, walking out saying that she could still get her if she wanted to, even making her nose bleed. Now, the next part with Kimiko, tied to the chair, Sherry as well. We have the guards, Nina, Frenchie. She goes over some of the old scars of Frenchie, just really kind of saying these dark, dark things of his past. And this next bit was pretty crazy. I do argue some of it was a bit convenient, though, just in terms of the writing. Like, fair enough that Kimiko, you know, fair enough. She broke out through the little freaking lollipop, somehow pick-locking it. I don't really know, but she was badass. That was all cool. But I don't know how Sherry broke wood. You know, I guess you could say it was like a weak chair, a weak wooden chair. But even after all of the fighting, I'm pretty sure we saw Nina, like, pick up a gun. She got out of there. But she could have still technically held Kimiko to gunpoint. We had freaking Frenchie. His neck was, like, restrained against the pole. So it just made me feel like, well, you could have still just been like this the whole time. But either way, it was still a badass scene, but sadly for Kimiko, and in this kind of heartwarming scene, because I love these two together, and a lot of people were thinking that when we saw these clips in the trailers that Frenchie might die, and who knows, Frenchie might still die, because I was saying last episode, with how close they're getting, is it going to be like one of those predictable things where Kimiko loses him? We're going to have to wait and see ultimately for the long-term plan there, because it didn't happen now. But this scene with how violent she got, powers or no powers, makes her still feel like the monstrosity she viewed in herself are still very much so there, and it wasn't to do with her powers. But it is for sure nice to know now that they are free of, well, Nina for now, I guess, but obviously Nina must have something else up her sleeve. Now, in the car journey with Starlight and we had him recall the story of Soulja Boy and what happened to his family, so he pulled up on some kids trying to boost the Benz, and that's when he took the Benz himself and then just, you know, hold it into the house, as he says, like a freight train. That's when his OCD kicked in, like he has to do this particular thing, otherwise he just feels like Soulja Boy is going to come and kill his family, and that's what happened to him as a kid, and it still happens till today. He needs to get him out of his head, and he feels like, obviously more now than ever, he needs to take Soulja Boy out. And so, guys, they knock on the door, and they are greeted by a caterpillar, if you know what I mean. And, you know, the guy recognizes Starlight, so they get in, basically. My commentary on all of this is that, you know, it was very The Boys. I expect nothing less. The stuff in there was absolutely hilarious. You know, I have no idea what I can even show on screen right now. Maybe just zoomed in reaction faces from and Starlight just looking really strange. I feel like there's a couple of Wonder Woman-y Gal Gadot references here again, because there's like the lasso of truth looking kind of thing there being used. Brushes up against Termite, yeah, and then proceeds to go to the bathroom to obviously clean himself up, and then he gets blasted. Absolutely blasted. To me, I was cracking up when you saw the sheer anger in MM's face. Meanwhile, we have Billy Butcher outside with Soulja Boy and Hughie. Hughie wants to go in there, try and kind of get people away, you know, because he wants to find exactly where the TNT twins are so he can go in there, do what he wants to do without getting anyone hurt, so he teleports in there naked. Hughie fits in with the scene very well, obviously, given the teleportation powers. Meanwhile, we have frickin' Starlight walking on the deep, having a good old time chilling with the octopus. Starlight, I think, is well within her right now to have some kind of blackmail stuff on him just in case anything goes sideways again. Maybe he could actually come in handy since he's so in deep, no pun intended there, with the 7, that she could threaten him with that, leaking it to the media or something, and he might do something in return, maybe sometime in the last couple of episodes. That's like a far-reaching theory, but you never know. He might care so much to not let that get out that he does something for Starlight to help with the effort against Homelander, but I don't know. Hughie bumps into A-Train because he's there for Blue Hawk. Now, this was interesting because A-Train actually apologized, but Hughie, you know, he got the balls to kind of confront him. Now he's got super strength, he can teleport, but he was like disappointed almost with the answer because he wanted the excuse to like deck him. He punched him anyway, but I think he wanted nothing more than A-Train to act like the arsehole he always has been, and so he could, you know, wreak hell on him in return. But that didn't happen, and I guess that even fueled his own frustration in that moment, because that's when Starlight came in, started restraining him, which is when Soulja Boy enters, and Hughie, you know, basically teleports her because she was like, no, I'm gonna go after him. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, because this is what I mean by the nice guys finish last thing. Like, Starlight, with how successful she's being so far, it is interesting to see what other bold things she's going to do, because this is the very thing. Normally, if you're going to do the right thing, stuff like this does get you killed by people like Homelander and Soulja Boy. So to be fair, if it wasn't for Hughie in this moment, maybe Starlight might have got killed by Soulja Boy because he's meant to be one of the most powerful underneath Homelander, or, you know, rivaling Homelander. So I do wonder if in the last couple of episodes, if she has any bigger moves how much plot armor she might have with regards to it, especially after the speech at the end. This turns into a little bit of a tiff in terms of Hughie obviously saying, oh, you always have to be the strong one, and Starlight's like, I thought you didn't care about that, but obviously he does. This is a whole complex with Hughie this season so far, and further fueling him into using Temp V. There's so many little bits and bobs going on in this moment. So then we have MM come across Soldier Boy. He uses the halothane gas, and because he's been dosed with it so much in the past, I guess, his tolerance must have built up so much to it because he almost rips a vape cloud with it. So he almost gets into a confrontation with Soldier Boy, but Butcher basically says not him. Obviously, this completely enrages MM, but Butcher did the right thing at the end of the day because he wanted to fight Soldier Boy. I'm sorry, I know frustration and anger will get the best of you sometimes, but with this, I do argue the character decision is maybe he doesn't care. I mean, unless, I guess he should because he has a daughter and he should live for I don't know. But either way, you don't stand a chance. As Butcher says, it would be suicide. And if it wasn't for Annie Starlight later, when Homelander and Soldier Boy were fighting, he was about to get involved. I was like, what do you think you're going to do? It would take one little zip with the heat vision from Homelander to slice through him like that. I get why he wants to kind of kamikaze, but yeah, you wouldn't have even made it 0.3 of a second in any of those fights. But anyway, basically at the end of the episode now, the TNT twins get confronted. They were kind of arguing with each other over some very messed up stuff that the brother was doing. They basically blame it on Black Noir, as we kind of already went over. Soldier Boy didn't really necessarily believe that, but I think they are telling the truth, especially given how Black Noir was just I'm out of here. Soldier Boy gets triggered again by hearing a song on the radio, so he can voluntarily do this, but it seems that whenever he hears a song like that, due to his torture in the past, it would just set him off. So this is when he blacked out. Annie and Hughie see this, and Hughie's just like, I'm not letting you go back. And then Starlight just completely wrecks him with a little Starlight blast, and that was hilarious. A-Train with Blue Hawk. This was super interesting because he confronts him, it's like, you're not going to get away with it. He decides to engage his speed, and this was brutal. He slams him down on the floor and runs with Blue Hawk, dragging behind him at super speedster speed. So that completely wrecked him, but as a result, his heart, it sounded like he was having a bit of a heart attack. Now, let me know if you think he's actually dead. It could have just been a moment where his heart was going crazy. I mean, it could be obvious to some of you, oh, Boba, he is very dead, but you just never know. I don't know. For all we know, Homelander noticed him when he was flying out of there and picked him up on his way back. And next episode, we're going to see him in the hospital or something. We're going to have to wait and see there, but I don't think that was the ending to A-Train. And so, with Homelander arriving, he kills Termite, and he finds out that Billy Butcher, with Soldier Boy, of course, he lasers him into the wardrobe. I did think, why didn't Homelander kind of flinch at that? Because normally when you laser someone, it slices through their flesh. I like how Soldier Boy digs into him, saying, you think you're strong? You look strong? Wearing a cape? And he calls himself the Upgrade, and so the battle begins. I was like, oh man, I didn't even know we would necessarily be getting this episode or so soon. I thought they would reserve a Soldier Boy versus Homelander fight until the last episode or the last couple of episodes. Homelander was almost losing initially, but then he starts, getting his confidence and starts catching Soldier Boy's punches. Soldier Boy is a bit kind of shook by that because obviously he was used to being the best Supe back in the day, but he's like, okay, so maybe you are the real deal when he caught it. And a maniacal smile on Homelander's face in this moment. But then we heard the oi from Billy, and he absolutely blasts Homelander. And I loved this fight because from Billy, he wants nothing more, as we know, to take down Homelander. So when he's exchanging blows with Homelander, and you saw the smile from Billy, kind of a bit of a parallel there, I guess you could say, between him and Homelander, with just enjoying it. But obviously, as we know from Billy, it's just because, hey, I am bashing the most powerful Supe on this planet, and it's a level playing field now. What I also loved about this as well as Homelander is just kind of what have you done? After this episode, he must be thinking now I'm actually more in danger. Even if they're not permanently V'd up, so to speak, they can actually get on my playing field. They have a little bit of a heat vision face-off. Soldier Boy grabs the cape, slams him to the floor. Then we get naked Hughie involved, even in the middle of the fight. I was like, this is so the boys. Then all three of them hold Homelander down. And it's just oh, this was so bittersweet because Three Supes, basically, in this moment, effectively, are holding him down. Soldier Boy starts, basically, igniting his little freaking radioactive blast. Hughie wanted to stay for it, even if it meant death, basically. And we had Homelander knowing, I think, he was about to go down, and he just managed to summon the willpower to fly out of there. So that's interesting, because at the end of my last review, as I was saying, obviously Soldier Boy is the weapon, but it takes a while to charge this blast. If any of you have played Halo, it's like the Spartan laser. You kind of need to like charge it and then still land the hit when the enemy can move at all times. I don't know if they're going to get that opportunity again. That's the thing. Maybe Maeve's going to come into it. Let me know your theories for how they're going to get Homelander in this position again when Homelander knows that that's what they need to do in order to get that blast to depower Homelander. This was their chance. This was it, and he got away. I would have been so angry if I was Billy, because it was right there. It was right there. Then we have the moment with Starlight saying, Homelander helped make me America's sweetheart, and he's going to regret that. Hands the phone to MM, and she basically reveals everything. And the thing is, she does have a big voice. As mentioned by Newman earlier, you have 193 million followers, like on one social media platform. So in this moment, you saw how the views were climbing up, 11 million, 12 million, 13 million, 14 million. The comments, people were believing her. So, oh, I always knew that Homelander was an asshole. Homelander and Vought are going to tell you it was something else, but no, this is really happening. She even goes as far beyond that to say that he's hurt people, he's done something to Maeve. I don't know what they're going to do to me for telling the truth, so this is like really bad. Again, I'm so intrigued and interested to see how they write this from here on out, because now that she's done this, Homelander could just absolutely wreck her, but maybe he feels because he has this need to be loved, which again, as acknowledged by his mirror self, needs to be eradicated, but maybe if it isn't, he won't kill her based off of the backlash that he could get from the audience killing America's sweetheart. So maybe she's got that inbuilt protection, but I really hope that the reason she doesn't just get straight up wrecked is decent. You could just say she might go on the run now because she said she quits. But regardless, it is very interesting stuff, because this is almost as good as the flight video getting out. Obviously, that will be the nail in the coffin, because people are believing her and taking her word already that Homelander is this. Heroes don't care. He's the worst of all of them. But that in combination with the flight video, that will be certainly interesting. Let me know if you think that's going to come out in the next couple of episodes. But I do think with this as well, on top of everything else, on top of the fight where he almost just died, what is holding back Homelander from truly breaking now? I think season 3 is going to end so much more explosive than what any of us actually really even foresaw, and I can't wait for it. So this episode was a blast, no pun intended there. It really was. I really enjoyed myself. Wacky, crazy, hilarious as usual. So let me know your thoughts, your theories down in the comments below. What did you think of this episode as well? What was your favorite moment? Like this video if you did enjoy it. I'd really appreciate that, of course. Do subscribe if you're enjoying these recaps and reviews. As always, links are in the description down below. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow Supes and boys in the next video. Goodbye.